Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Daily Debate. My name is Ahmed Nader and tonight we are going to focus on the urban development plan for Egypt until 2052 and of course the economic impacts of it on the Egyptian citizen for the near future. And tonight I am honored to be having with me in the studio to be shedding more light on such an important topic is Professor Wael Badawy, the head of the data science and the cybersecurity at the School of Artificial Intelligence in the Egyptian Russian University and a member of the Egyptian Research Council on Communication and Information Technology. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. We will be starting straight away with the top stories for today, which took place on Thursday as Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli said that the executive procedures had been taken to implement President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's decrees on dispersing a new social protection package. During the weekly cabinet meeting at the government's headquarters in the new administrative capital, Madbouli hailed the decisions made by President al-Sisi to implement the largest social package at a value of £180 billion starting next March, and said that the package would focus on the health and the education sectors as well as the pensions beneficiaries. Madbouli reiterated that all the state bodies continue taking measures to provide the basic commodities at suitable prices and means of controlling markets to meet the citizens' needs, and expressed the government's keenness to curb the repercussions of the world economic crises and challenges which could have negative impacts on the economy. And for the other top story for tonight, we will be focusing on Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry, who had started an official visit to Cyprus following an invitation by his Cypriot counterpart, Konstantinos Kombos. Upon his arrival, Shoukry held talks with the Cypriot President Nikos Christodoulides and Kombos, which tackled the bilateral ties and a number of regional developments, including the current deteriorating situation in Gaza. At a joint press conference, Shoukry renewed the Egyptian constant support to the Palestinian cause and said that Egypt was working with all the stakeholders to find a solution to end the conflict, and urged the international community to apply more pressure to allow aid into Gaza. We will be heading to the first report of the Daily Debate for tonight, which focuses on the urban development for 2052 in Egypt and the economic impacts of it. And we will be starting with the infrastructure and building new cities and, of course, constructing a whole new administrative capital in the NAC. We will be having more details in the upcoming reports, so stay tuned.
Egypt has unveiled its comprehensive urban development plan for the northwestern coastal region as part of the ambitious 2052 vision. This strategic initiative aims to address the country's future population growth by focusing on creating distinctive economic activities and providing sustainable job opportunities for Egyptian youth over the next few decades. The northwestern coastal region's significance is that its capacity can accommodate the expected population surge. The plan envisions the establishment of several new sustainable and fourth-generation smart cities, each designed to attract millions of residents. These cities will be centers for tourism, entertainment services, advanced technological industries, global commercial activities, and administrative hubs for international companies. Furthermore, the plan prioritizes delivering outstanding educational and healthcare services to the inhabitants. Among the cities outlined in the plan is the city of El Alamein, where the Egyptian government has already taken rapid development steps. Additionally, cities like Ras Al Hikma, Inigila and Jarhoub are also slated for development. The plan also includes the enhancement of existing cities such as Marsa Matruh and Es Saloum. In this context, the government is currently working to finalize the development plan for Ras Al Hikma, positioning it as the second city in the project. The development will occur through partnerships with globally renowned entities possessing extensive technical expertise and substantial financial capabilities. The goal is to position Ras Al Hikma on the world tourism map within the next 5 years, emerging as one of the premier tourist destinations on the Mediterranean and globally. This in light of the significant infrastructure investments made by the state to serve the region. An announcement is imminent regarding the commencement of the development of the region, covering an expansive area of over 180 square kilometers.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and I am honored to be having with me in the studio for tonight Professor Wael Badawy. Professor Wael, of course, we did see a report about the importance of the urban planning and the development in this field. How do you see the significance of such a topic for the future of the country, especially economically?
The expansion of new cities, in particular smart cities and intelligent communities, I believe it's a must, because you have a growing population in the high density areas, and with this growing population you start to have chaos in services, in roads, blockade, and it's too busy roads. So it's obvious that you want to build a more organized locations where people can enjoy standard of life, quality of life, as well as you try to reduce the carbon footprint. And this could be done through what we call smart cities, or development where the city can optimize the usages of its own resources like water, sewage, electricity, power, security, safety, through technology, through computers, through internet, through AI, through all of this kind of new innovations. So it's a must that we start to look forward in the future to have a more organized establishment. And this is where the new cities will come.
Yes, Professor, as this is your field of expertise, the cybersecurity and the artificial intelligence, what is the importance of building artificial cities, a smart new capital, the new administrative capital for the government, for the cabinet, or for the political leadership, and on the other hand, for the citizen who will be living there in the future?
Managing resources using decision-making or machine learning or any pattern, understanding of any pattern, managing these resources will reduce the cost and will guarantee the operation. So if a standard audience would like to understand, what is smart cities?
Yes.
Smart cities, it's a city understands the infrastructure, understands how it could be used. So if you have populated hallway, for example, you will have lights. If you have no individuals in these hallways or these roads, the light will be dimmed. It starts with a traffic light which senses who is waiting for the green light. So having the smart cities with infrastructure, information technology infrastructure, means internet, means fiber optics, means wireless communication, means 4G, means the new 5G announcement in Egypt to be offered. All of this will be integrated to sense, detect different activity, then provide or accommodate different services for these activities. Therefore, these smart cities is a must if we want to reduce cost of living and the cost of operation, as well as we would like to comply with goals for sustainability and environmental protection goals to reduce carbon footprint and reduce emissions all over. So this is one of the solutions.
Do you think that those cities could be able to be contributing in absorbing the increase in population?
They are. And we say they are. I understand that there are two sides to these cities. There is urban areas, which is we believe they are not above our financial means. And at the same time, you have associated with it factories, plans, or companies, sites, or location where you can do economical activities.
Yes.
So people will live nearby these locations, and then people will start to create economical growth, because you have now new factories, you have now new automation, you have now new operational mode. We in several meetings when the new capital was in place and we were looking at security and networking and how the operation will happen, we understood from the company which is providing this technology, they have doing two different infrastructure network. One to control all sensors and one for the internet, which is a luxury. You cannot do it by fitting the current population. So imagine in Cairo or imagine close by the studio here and you try to install a new high-speed fiber optic network. You need to dig all roads. You cannot dig all roads. It's not because of the cost, because of the people will use this road to commute. So imagine all the roads are cut into half for 6 months to install new...
At the same time, all the roads at the same time.
You cannot do that. So there is a limit where we can fit the current population with the new infrastructure, and having a new location with start from scratch based on electronics and computers. For example, they have tunnels just for cables. And this is because they need to maintain these internet cables or these communication cables. So having this kind of development in Egypt is a must, because as we talked before, in the AI and the IT and all of these resources, you need to have a high-speed back end. You need to have servers. You need to have computers. You need to reach all the places around the world from this spot, which you cannot do in the current location, because you are now limited by the switch, the telecommunication switch close by the studio. In the old, not the old Cairo, but in the traditionally what we know as Cairo or Cairo downtown. So this is why you must look at this development elsewhere.
You've mentioned, Professor, that we have a new city and an old city in Cairo and in different parts and places all over the Republic, as we have seen the vision of the political leadership under the tenure of President Al-Sisi to be having, for example, new Mansoura city. We have the Mansoura city, of course, located at the Qahliya Governorate, and we have now the new Mansoura city. How do you think that building a new city that is kind of a mirror to the old one is important for the population that is living, for example, in Mansoura nowadays, and for the neighboring governorates as well?
It's not, I don't see it as a mirror, it's an expansion. So if you want to build a new Mansoura on the coastal side, you will need to have more coastal activity. You need to have logistic hubs. You need to have tourism. So when you build this new establishment and these new areas, you send a message outside that we have a high standard of implementation for cities. We have the right infrastructure. We have the accessibility to it. You can come here and you will not be surrounded by lots of people, because these areas are organized in a different way and different shape. So Mansoura is a unique. They have also there the new university, the new Mansoura University, and it's a very interesting site, because it's, in my opinion, it's more luxurious than Alamein. However, it doesn't have towers like Alamein towers. So this new cities and intelligent cities, smart cities, is a vehicle for us to catch up with the world in the new generation, in the information technology generation. And you know that we have the alpha generation, the Z generation, the new junior or the new Egyptians 24 years and below are all computer savvy, are all computer oriented. We cannot provide this computer connectivity in old areas, because communication towers has capacities, structure of buildings with lots of steel, tall building. You don't have connectivity because the noise of the steel and the towers. And it's very common that we live in a high tower. We are in the first, second floor. We don't have connectivity because the roads are narrow, the streets are narrow. So we cannot get the right infrastructure to support us in the new life standard or the new lifestyle and the new activity. So to accommodate these new generations, you need to build locations which has internet for granted, communication for granted, network for granted, and then they can enjoy life and they can do whatever they like to do. And lots of reports came and said, this is the characteristics of this new generation. This is not like for us, as whatever our generation is, we are not that much computer savvy. We are not too much attached. But these generations, in some countries, they call them 6 screens, which means they are surrounded by 6 screens all the time, which means they need connectivity. So I see it as not a mirror, it is an expansion to build You can call it more technological, more infrastructure-oriented cities.
Yes, and speaking of the connectivity and the infrastructure and technology and having internet for granted, as you mentioned, Professor Wael, we have now the Haya Karima, or Decent Life initiative as well, which is targeting the villages, not just the new cities, the new capital, but it is targeting the villages, thousands of villages all across the country, millions of people, I think about 50 to 60 million people living within those villages, to be giving them not just water and shelter and heating and all of those, of course, sustainable, important things for the living beings, but the internet as well is considered through one of the visions of the political leadership to be getting to every home, getting to every house and getting to every generation, as you mentioned. How do you see the importance of such a topic to be getting the internet as importantly as the other things, as the other infrastructures?
The internet is important, however, these villages you talk about,
yes,
they are only also, I believe, 1 or 2 story buildings. They are not 50 plus and 30 plus towers. So the density of population there, you can afford providing them. And keep in mind, we came out of COVID. And in COVID, we transferred lots of our education, lots of our schools, whatever the tablet used to be, but the tablet is still here. People like the tablet, don't like the tablet. The tablet needs communication.
Yes.
It needs infrastructure. The fact is we were able to deploy that tablets in almost all cities. I'm not talking, I'm not for favor, I'm not against. I'm just observing a phenomenon because I know this is a very... This is a fact,
yes,
and this is a very... there is a huge discussion around the efficiency of tablet, but the fact is you have tablets in these remote schools. Because with Haya Karima and the vision of our leadership, Fattah Sisi, he started Haya Karima, and then we had the pressure of COVID, so suddenly we have new schools, and these schools are equipped with connectivity, with communication. So it was easy enough during COVID that we provide some sort of education. Maybe it's not the best education ever, it may be not, but the alternative was zero education. So the continuation of working remotely for 2 years or more using this infrastructure, proven that Haya Karima was a vision and it incorporates this technology. I know there are lots of people maybe don't accept this, they can see different approaches. However, this is the only approach which proven to work to a certain extent, to a good extent, and serve our populations, our people. If you take this from Haya Karima and you want to say, okay, so what about these people? What we can do for them? We push them in areas where you have the right infrastructure. Besides these cities, you will have an industrial park or technology park.
yes,
So you can able to get these people to go to commute to their local work as well. So they need to don't go back to the old hubs or old cities. And as you notice right now, people live in East Cairo. They stay in East Cairo like 6 days a week or so because their jobs are there. People in West Cairo, in the new developments in October City or in Tagamma or in wherever, they always try to locate jobs within this envelope so they don't commute to come to city. So for us to come here to the studio in the city center, it's a nice journey for the weekend because we are working in this kind of envelopes. So this is how it will help us to move forward.
And this is the same vision that President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi spoke about in terms of developing the North Coast, the region of the North Coast, because we have seen over the past couple of days discussions regarding developing certain parts of the North Coast. And I would like to speak about them not just in terms of tourism or people going to the beaches and enjoying the beaches and the sun in the summertime, but it is more about the commercial aspects of the North Coast, the industrial aspects as well of the North Coast region. How do you think we have succeeded in doing that? Because you mentioned that we need to be pushing people slightly to be living there. They have work, they have infrastructure, they have everything, so they don't need to be getting back.
It's an interesting question because I'm originally from Alexandria on the North Coast, and
yes,
we are going to Alexandria in the coming days in winter, and people say, oh, Alexandria in winter is nice. We lived in Alexandria for 30-some years,
yes,
and our parents used to work in Alexandria, and I used to study in Alexandria. So North Coast for us in Egypt is not just a summer destination. What we have been seeing in Alamein in particular with the opening of the 2 or 3 universities over there, with the new activities in Burj Al Arab, which is close by, with all the farming activities and industrial activities around it, we start to see some indications of 12 months operation. So the issue of having North Coast where you go only for 4 to 6 months and during summertime
Yes.
is not there. So having this new development, having the industrial park behind it, because you have infrastructure, you have internet, you can have remote sites. One comment we heard yesterday that people in Canada, for example, would like to come to Egypt because they work remotely from home. The company which hired them in Canada from home refused them to locate to different countries. And the rationale behind that is you don't have infrastructure for connectivity. So having Alamein or having any place in the North Coast with the proper infrastructure, with the proper connectivity, you can create communities which can work remotely to companies in Europe from home because you have the gateway or you have the hub, you have the speed of communication. So it was one very interesting, there was a discussion on an Egyptian group and they said, oh, we work from home and we don't even go to companies because our companies in the US. So why I don't go to Egypt and to continue working from home and observe the time difference? We found out they found out in their own contract they cannot move away because they don't guarantee the communication and the bandwidth to be able to provide the service. So that's why trying to modify the concept of, and building infrastructure to support 12 months of living and industrial activities and businesses, it will help these locations to be 12 months populated.
Yes, Professor Wael Badawy will be heading to the other report of the daily debate for tonight, which focuses on the 2052 vision for the urban development planning and the economic efficiency of it, as well as the social justice that will be impacting it for the Egyptians. We'll be having more details in the upcoming reports, so stay tuned.
Minister of Housing, Utilities and Urban Communities Asim El-Ghazar said that Egypt's Strategic National Plan for Urban Development 2052 aims at doubling the current urban area to reach 14% through a number of development axes represented by a national road network currently being implemented, as well as the new cities which have been recently launched. The rate of water networks delivery in rural areas reached 97% and 34% of the delivery of sewage networks by the end of 2018. There are currently 2,730 water stations, which reflects the size of development and the investment requirements in order to implement this size of infrastructure. 709,000 low-income housing units are being implemented in order to bridge the gap between supply and demand in the Egyptian market, and the infrastructure has been implemented for more than 10,000 feddan. Whereas 980 plots of land have been made available for services purpose on an area of 3,000 feddan, in addition to developing 80,000 feddans for investment projects.
Welcome back. You're still watching the daily debate, and I am honored to be having with me in the studio for tonight Professor Wael Badawy, the head of the data science and the cybersecurity at the School of Artificial Intelligence in the Egyptian Russian University, and the member of the Egyptian Research Council on Communication and Information Technology. Professor Wael, you have mentioned several times that we have new cities, but we have new universities as well in practically every city. What's the importance of having a new, fully equipped, having of all the infrastructure needed to the university that is being built, at the same time simultaneously building a whole new city?
I will reply to your question with a question. When I returned back and I lived in East Cairo, we saw so many unused buildings and in inhabited areas,
Yes.
3-4 years ago.
Yes.
And I start to ask when the inhabitants will come. So you start a city by having people first or having infrastructure first. You start, and the infrastructure here, we talk about more than just sewage and water and building. We talk about services like supermarket, like butcher, like bakery. So which one comes first? It's a very interesting question. Assume you have, like, we have lots of new development. We have 900 the buildings and a few thousands of flats and apartments, few thousands of villas, then who's serving them? Are you bringing the people first or you bring the service first? You cannot bring service because service needs to be sustainable by selling and making profit so they can get more products. So starting by having seeds of new universities which could leverage the infrastructure and the high speed of the infrastructure, this is a good vision. I'm not sure they meant it directly or indirectly happened, but this will be the seed. So when you bring the new students, when you bring the academia and different people who are serving these new cities, you basically start to put a seed for population. So you start to build service around it. When this grows, when the city will start to grow, you will start to see more people are coming because there are service. And a very straightforward question, will you go to live in a place where you don't have bakery, you don't have supermarket, you don't have any service, you don't have pharmacy? So why you don't have pharmacy? Because there is no people in this area yet. So who comes first? So having this organized movement of people during the time, which is not just summertime, it's a brilliant step. And I'm not sure who in urban planning will understand it. I'm not an urban planner, I'm an information technology guy.
Yes.
But this is how we experience it in Egypt.
And how do you see the role of the private sector? Of course, we have seen and we have spoken about the role of the political leadership and even the role of the citizens to be relocating and going to those new cities and living there with all the new infrastructure and the smart technologies that are being introduced there. But on the other hand, how do you see the role of the private sector in building new cities, and what are the benefits that they could be getting out of it?
I believe the private sector is the main executor or the main player, because the government with all of this decrees and allowance, they enable the location. Now the private sector will come and they are the one who can make most profit, because they will build buildings which will be sought after by the population. They can create economical and industrial activity, and this economical and industrial activity will benefit them and create revenue for them. Now, to get employees and workers and people to work in this place, you need to have accommodate affordable living. And the affordable living comes from the projects and the complex for which people doing it to try to create what we call it social justice. Early on, people will look at these projects started near the big locations and the luxury place. They, why they bring these people close? Because to operate these people, you need to have operators. Where the operators will live? You cannot afford living in these villas or these high-end buildings.
Yes.
So you need to have a special projects for them or a special locations where they can live. So marrying these two together in the development, it will create what we call it sustainable communities, because you have people who makes money and people who spend money and people who are serving them to get their money and make living. So it will create a sustainable. This is how I see it. And I hope it's like, I'm not trying to create another debate about social justice, because this is the social justice.
On the other hand, how do you see the importance of the social housing projects that we have seen under the tenure of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in terms of helping in solving the housing gap problem that we have had, of course, over decades?
I can answer this question in a different way, because Egypt is the only country I'm aware of that's allow under poverty family to own a house after 20 years of payment. So we are not here talking about social justice, because in North America and Europe, they have this complex and they call it projects, or they call it underpaid housing. And what they do is they rent it for them. Egypt is the only country which is enable this particular segment of the society to own a house after they pay all the settlement in 20 years.
Yes.
So this is another step in the social equity. So having this new development, and for me, like coming from East Egypt or East Cairo in particular, there are lots of these compounds around us, lots of these complexes around us, lots of these projects around us. And when you talk to these people, because they are close to our university, you found out that these people came from a very strange environment where they have no safety. They live in like cages. And when they move over there, they have a better opportunity. they have better schools, they have better social life, they have better sport and the health club. And there are lots of interesting places which is in Cairo and the east of Cairo, you can see this kind of activities.
Yes, and finally, Professor, we have seen about 25 new cities as well as the new capital being built and constructed. On the other hand, how do you see the importance of the transportation links, the railways, the monorail, the electrical train, the speedway train? We have had a lot of links and transportation innovations that we have had over the years to be linking those new cities all together. How do you see the importance of having a leap in this field?
It's a must-have because you need to connect these locations with the city center, with decision-making position. People will not go live in these cities and stay there like a jail. They need to commute.
Yes.
Now, all of this kind of, all of these different forms of trains and different set of trains enable us to reduce the carbon footprint of operation. It enables us to use clean technology. It does not use and emission carbon to the atmosphere. So this helps the plan of having what we call it Green Egypt. Having these communities, when you have buses or trains, reduced number of cars on roads. It's actually a safer mean of travel as well as is faster travel. And I'm not sure if you are aware that currently when you go to this new station, there is a bus system connected with the same ticket. This is what I was told by friends.
Yes.
And it gets you to another location because these stations are actually close to the highway. So if you want to go to like Abur city or Badr city or Shuruk, there is buses including in the ticket. They take you from this location to get you close to the nodes or the spots where you can reach your home or your destination, which is a model we have been seeing in Europe and in North America. So having this alternative way, I understand that people don't really appreciate it at the moment because we have this Ukraine war, we have this issue of financial crisis, we have this war, we have this pressure, we have COVID. All of this slowed down seeing the fruits out of this project. But once you have a new population settled in the new capital, they need to use this means. And if you look with a microscope, microscope to this operation right now, you will find that almost all these new universities operating, there is a fleet of buses privately getting the students from everywhere to these new spots, and they take them back. And all the students and all their families are praying to have this train and monorail to operate so they can get their kids to the monorail better than the private bus they use. So having these roads and having this mean of transportation, having the hybrid of them, having the different set of them, it will fit different needs, fit different financial capabilities, and it's a must.
Yes, Professor Wael Badawy, the head of the Data Science and the Cybersecurity at the School of Artificial Intelligence at the Egyptian Russian University and the member of the Egyptian Research Council on Communication and Information Technology. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. And this brings us to the end of the Daily Debate for tonight. Thank you for watching and goodbye.